Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I thought I'd just do a really quick rundown of some things to check over before you submit your college apps, especially for you procrastinators out there. I feel you and I'm here to help. Okay, so the first thing is probably one of the most important, and that's just to make sure that all of your rec letters have been submitted. I believe if your school uses Naviance, there should be a really easy way to check that. If not, I believe there's a way to see it on the Common App as well. I think it should say like downloaded or sent, one of the two, and that should mean that you're all good for that teacher's rec letter. Also, you should be aware that there are certain schools that have separate portals for submission for those rec letters. I think MIT is one of them. I think Georgetown might be as well. So if you are applying to those schools, make sure that you've contacted your teachers and made sure that they know that they need to submit it separately through those portals. Another thing is word count. I know if you're writing your essays super last minute, it can be hard to try to like stick within a word count. At least for me personally, I like to like write a lot, especially when I don't have like a ton of time. I just like sort of like word vomit. And also sometimes like I know when you write something, you think you have the right word count, and then you put it into like the actual thing and it says you're a few words over, and that can be really frustrating too if you're on a deadline. So AI for me has been so helpful with this. I normally don't recommend, I don't like using AI for things that involve like writing other than like brainstorming ideas and things like that. But for getting rid of words, especially if it's like 10 to 20, it can be such a time saver. Let me tell you, like it will just be really good at picking out words that might be unnecessary. And obviously like you have the final say over whether or not you choose to delete or not. So I strongly recommend that, especially if you are running short on time. Also, when you are sort of doing things last minute, obviously it can be very easy to make typos when you're writing, especially if you're like in one headspace and you're just like hunkered down, like writing something for hours. You can read over the same essay 20 times and not catch a typo if you're just staying in that same headspace. So one thing that I think is super helpful is just sort of like removing yourself from the mindset of writing for a little bit. So like just doing something else so that your mind is not thinking about your essay. So maybe like go for a walk, maybe like call a friend, have a chat, go eat a meal, make a meal. Basically just like remove yourself from the headspace that you were in while you were writing that essay so that you come back to it with fresh eyes. Obviously, like if you have somebody else in your life, like a friend or even like a little sibling, they don't necessarily need to like comment on the content of the essay, but they can be really good at catching typos and things like that. So if you have another person, that's great. Otherwise, make sure that you sort of remove yourself from the situation and come back to it so that you have a fresh eyes, fresh brain. Also, make sure that you are aware of any specific like additional attachments that schools may need. I remember like for Princeton, I needed to submit a writing sample, and so that's something that like takes time. Obviously, you're not like writing for that, but you do have to like choose an essay to submit, and that can take time. Also, some schools offer you the opportunity to submit a resume, so that's also something that you should have prepared beforehand. There's also like if you've done research, sometimes they'll ask you to submit like additional information about your research or like a copy of the paper or something like that, the abstract or whatever. So please make sure that you are aware of that as well, because I think like when you're on a deadline, you kind of like can push some of those other things to the back of your head and like compartmentalize, but they can also end up taking some time. So make sure that you're aware of all of those things. Just because you also like don't want to disadvantage yourself in the process at all. Some of those things aren't always necessary. You know, it's not necessary to submit a resume to your universities, but if it is something that you think could potentially benefit your application, and in most cases I think it's always better to sort of like take that extra time to do it, even if it's not 100% essential. Obviously, like don't end up like missing other deadlines to do optional things, but you just want to set yourself up for the best possible situation. And lastly, this is specifically for people who have a lot of deadlines. I know when I was applying to college, right around this time, I had like probably around 15 schools that I was applying to, and they all kind of had deadlines within the same week. So please make sure that you know when your college's deadline is. I think with the Common App, it can be pretty easy to see because I think it shows up, but just in case, so that you know and so that you can plan ahead, I created like a master, like you can do like a master spreadsheet. I made a little Google Doc before I started this process, and just sort of like wrote down every single school and what the deadline was, and that was just helpful for me to like organize it in my brain and like organize what I was going to work on when, because obviously like when you have so many essays to do in such a short period of time, it can be really easy to get the dates like jumbled up. So please make sure that you are organizing yourself around those. Okay, so those were all my checklist items, and I'll just leave you with a message of encouragement. If you feel like you're running behind in your college applications, don't lose hope. It doesn't mean you can't get into your dream school. It doesn't mean that at all, actually. You know, nobody who's reading your application knows how much time you spent on it. What's going to matter is the work that you actually submit. So do your best work in these last few days, and you are totally capable of doing everything and anything that you want to do. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel. But regardless, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye!